Freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your recap of this week's AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. And joining me to break it all down, Greg DuCharme is here. Greg, what up?
Happy to be here. What a week, man. I mean, so much for a weak field. That was a great tweet by you, Rick, because that story was completely forgotten by Sunday.
Berger, Cantley, Spieth, Casey, all in the mix of it. All the studs, the studs that were in the field made plenty of noise. Mark Immelman is there. Mark, you're at Pebble. Welcome. Good to have you.
It's good to be here. I'm actually packed and ready to hustle to San Francisco Airport for the red eye back. But yeah, it was. I'm with Greg. It turned out to be a fantastic afternoon, super day. Lots of drama, honestly, and the golf course played its part, which for me is always cool.
We'll make sure to get you out of here on time so you don't miss your flight. And Kyle Porter is here. KP, what up?
You're not flying private, Mark?
No, bro. That's for you.
I figured Mr. Nance would have a plane all ready for you to just fly out of his backyard.
No. Well, he's going. Well, there's LA next week, and I'm going home for a little bit. So,
yeah, that's true.
With that, it's Daniel Berger straight vibing his way to victory, 18 under par, including a Sunday 65. I already talked to Kyle about this, Greg, so we'll start with you. I basically have made the argument that Daniel Berger objectively was the best player in the field this week. Obviously, he wins the golf tournament, so that goes a long way, but there are a lot of times on the PGA Tour where the guy who plays the best doesn't win, and Berger got the wrong end of the draw. He was phenomenal on Sunday. He led the field in strokes gained approach. He led the field in strokes gained tee to green. Even the putts he missed were on the lip. I mean, this guy was in full control, and then he stamps an exclamation point on the 18th green when he rolls in eagle to lock this thing down.
Yeah, that was sweet. If you listen to his interview, he hit he hit the best 3-wood he's ever hit in his life and the best putt he's ever hit in his life.
Back-to-back shots, the two best shots of his life. That's got to be the best. In that moment is like the best time to ever do it.
And now he also shared with us he's playing the best golf of his life. So this times are good. He is really, really straight vibing. But by the way, I have a Daniel Berger story to tell you. This is a little off. This is it's not directly related to him, but in the spirit of Valentine's Day, I have to share it. So I apologize.
I have no idea where this is going.
This is going to be the best. It's already the best podcast we've ever had.
It's been so much already.
We're gonna go down to Jupiter East about 5 years ago. Okay, this is the night that I met my wife for the very first time. And my wife was she was living in West Palm, and she had a friend from Rhode Island where she grew up visiting. And so there's this thing called the food trucks that everybody goes to, and I go and she goes, and we end up meeting each other. And that's a different part of the story. But she had this friend visiting. And the only reason that she went is because her friend meets this guy. And so they're hanging out. So she gets freed up. She doesn't have to host. Plans kind of change. So we end up meeting for the very first time. And I eventually, the next day, I go to her house. And there at her house is her friend and Daniel Berger's brother. And if it weren't for Daniel Berger's brother meeting my wife's friend, I wouldn't have ever met my wife. So fascinating story. So thank you, Johnny Berger. I'll give him a little shout out. So it's quite a day in the Berger household today.
It sounds like quite a day in the DuCharme household.
It is Valentine's Day.
Yeah, there you go. Johnny Berger. That's the first Johnny Berger shout out we've ever had on the first. That sounds like a fake name. That's a fake name.
No, I was gonna say, if my last name was Berger, I would name my kid Johnny. It's perfect. Johnny Berger.
Oh, Johnny Berger. Well, Johnny's brother Daniel makes the most of his week. He cashes in his second victory since the restart. So, Mark, this is via Justin Ray. I believe everything's from Justin Ray. The golfers who have won multiple times since the restart: Dustin Johnson, John Rahm, Colin Morikawa, Bryson DeChambeau, and now Daniel Berger. Should we be talking about DB straight vibing in a different echelon of player?
Well, we kind of were last year as a group, weren't we? I mean, after that run across the summertime, when that's Carl raising his hand. Carl was on the Daniel Berger train, and we know how fickle Carl can be, because the only guy he's hung really around with for any extended period of time has been Jordan. But no, he's for real. I mean, I like the quip you made earlier, where he was arguably the best player in the field. I mean, I would counter with Patrick Cantley, who just, looked sensational, just couldn't buy anything coming down the stretch Saturday, Sunday. And Paul Casey, kind of the same deal. But everyone will make a bunch about the putt that he holed on 18 there. I got to tell you, that 3-wood he hits, I was out there. I've seen a number of shots in my time. And that shot, with nothing but Pacific down the left, bunker and tree on the right-hand side, and it's a small target, that was laced, and it was high, and it was, I wasn't overcome. That's a big statement, but that was a heck of a shot to get under the pressure. And
he was overcome.
Well, you saw the emotion afterwards, because they had our cameras trained on him after the round, and you could see he was sort of wiping his eyes a little bit, because I think it dawned on him what he pulled off. I mean, the start to the round was fantastic. He hung on there through the middle and then finished with a flourish, and it was some really sound golf. And the thing about his game is, for someone who hits it pretty long, he's so reliable. He's very, very accurate off the tee. He's one-dimensional in the ball flight. He controls the distance well, and he's got great touch around the green. So I wouldn't say he's complete. Dustin Johnson, to me, and Rory are they're in a different level. But if Daniel Berger plays like that, he said as much afterwards. He goes, "When I'm at my best, I'm tough to beat." Because he's got the tools, but he's got he's got that blue chip thing about him as well. The guy is he's a grinder, and he's never going to let you go. And it was a very, very good, an impressive performance I watched him put together today.
You see, I would argue that he is complete. Real quick, I think he is complete. He's just not supercharged the same way that DJ and Rory are. There's definitely, I agree with you, Mark. There's a different level, but I think with his current sort of makeup, I think he is complete throughout the bag.
Greg, who's better right now, Rory or Daniel Berger?
Well, see, better is a tough
Greg.
question, because who's playing better? Daniel Berger's playing better. I'd rather have Daniel Berger on my team than Rory right now, just because Rory has a clear weakness, and he hasn't quite shown us that he can overcome it. But I think overall, talent-wise, I don't think there's really much of a question. It's Rory.
I want to actually flash back here to July 7th, 2020. This is a day that will live in infamy and continues to live in infamy, because Kyle Porter released his top 5 golfers in the world power rankings. And if you're watching on YouTube, producer Jacob has them up here. And these rankings are: 1, Bryson DeChambeau; 2, Daniel Berger; 3, Webb Simpson; 4, Terrell Hatton; 5, Dustin Johnson. KP, you got ratioed pretty hard for this. I think you could actually rub it in everybody's face right now. I think you are just getting solidified on this take.
Well, one, I could rub it in everybody's face then, because it was a power ranking. It was literally like you want to be a prisoner of the moment. It was not. I mean, it's kind of what Greg and I are talking about right now. It's not like who has the most talent. It's who had been playing the best. And Berger, I mean, Rick and I talked about this on HQ. Berger's been playing at a really top, 15 clip for 13 months now. I mean, I think he's got, it's 9 top 10s in his last 19 events, 2 wins. I think for him, it's okay. What are you going to do at majors? Can you get on a Ryder Cup team? He's never been on a Ryder Cup team, which actually surprised me when I looked it up. I think he's been on at least one, maybe 2 President's Cup teams. But yeah, people can get out of my mentions with the power ranking thing. He was playing like a top 5 guy then, and he still is.
I absolutely love this. And that to me is a really big part of this story, Greg, this is not since the restart. This is like a year's worth of really solid golf from Daniel Berger. The thing that I've been kind of saying all week is go back to this event last year. He finished T5. He was ranked he was ranked 123rd after Pebble Beach last year. He's going to wake up tomorrow as the 13th ranked player in the world. And he's been in that top 15 for 8, 9 months, something like that. I mean, this is not a meteoric rise. It's not a blip on the radar. It's like he's really good.
Right. This has been steady play. And, there's a couple ways he's viewed a little differently. He hasn't won majors. He hasn't contended in majors, and he doesn't necessarily have the cachet to be like a Ricky Fowler type superstar. You're not seeing him in commercials. You're not seeing that kind of stuff with Daniel Berger, but he was the rookie of the year in a class with Justin Thomas back at, I want to say it was 2014. And he was playing at a great level, a very high level then, until a wrist injury. In 2018, he injured his wrist, and he kind of goes away a little bit. He loses his game. And a wrist injury in the game of golf is not an easy thing to deal with. It's extremely frustrating, and they can, because of the nature of the game, they can linger for a while. So once that got healed, all of a sudden you started to see Daniel Berger perform the way that kind of to who he really is as a player. So I don't think this is a hot streak. I don't think this is a, like you said, Rick, a meteoric rise. This is who he is. And we just kind of forgot about it for 2 seasons while he was injured. So if that didn't happen, and this was happening 2 years ago, I don't think anybody would be surprised. And you shouldn't be surprised now, because you're right. It's been going on for a year plus.
Well, to build on Greg's point, I'm one of a select few of us that grade golfers by the score on the end of their scorecard. And as I look at the numbers since the CJ Cup, he hasn't had a round over par. He was 5 under at the CJ Cup, 15 at the Zozo, 11 at Mayakoba, Century Tournament Champions 19 under. Following week, Sony 18 under. Waste Management, he shot 2 under, missed the cut, and this week he's 18 under. I mean, this is a guy who's just had a plethora of rounds in the 60s since the US Open, and he's clearly found whatever the recipe is. And I think you and I spoke last night, Rick. I think he sort of found an element of free swinging about him, because he actually, by his own admission, said that, prior to the injury, he was just good at golf, so he played it. But now post the injury, he's a lot more thankful. He's free swinging. He's in love with the game. And because he's in love with the game, he's prepared to work harder. And you add a healthy dose of work to some talent, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a recipe for success. And beware the confident golfer. And he's got a bunch of swagger about him right now.
I think the thing I like most about him is I think he wants the ball. Like I think there are a lot of guys on tour who are super talented and they don't really want the ball. And they would say they do. Like they would say they want Rory first in the Ryder Cup on Sunday, but they don't. Like deep down, they don't. I mean, seriously, and that's not a bad thing. That's just part of like your makeup. And I think Berger does. I think he's got a little like of that kind of Patrick Reed in him, the good part.
Yeah, careful.
And I love that. He's kind of a dog. Like he kind of just gets after it, and you combine that with really a lot of talent, and I think what you get is somebody who, other than his injury, whatever it was, 18 months or 2 years, kind of won a lot on the PGA Tour in terms of the percentage of events that he's played in.
I like that a lot. Abraham Answer said he wanted Tiger Woods, and we know how that ended up going for him.
That was fake wanting Tiger. That was
starstruck. I'd love to play with Tiger. Well, I'd ask for his autograph.
Yeah. Well, the thing is also, I mean, to your point of wanting the ball, KP, the guy steps on 18T tied, and the guy he's tied with is already in the clubhouse. So birdie to win. He then proceeds to hit in his words, the best 3-wood he's ever hit in his life, and then the best putt he's ever hit in his life. So yeah, I think this guy wants the ball in a big way. I like the way you look at that.
Might be prisoner of the moment a little bit, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt there.
No, not at all. If that wasn't enough, we have to talk about Jordan Spieth here, who finished his T3. It is a Sunday 70. We'll give you a chance to catch your breath here, Kyle. Greg, we'll start with you on this, because what we were trying to decide on HQ earlier was kind of the whole perception versus reality thing from Jordan Spieth, right? Back-to-back top 5 finishes. Obviously, those are good results. But when you are the 54-hole leader, the 54-hole co-leader, is he going to feel some level of disappointment? And what's his mindset moving forward?
Yeah, of course there's going to be disappointment. He wouldn't be who he is if this kind of thing didn't disappoint him. But I think there are a lot of positives to take away. Once the sting of not winning goes away, I think he'll look at, and if you listen to what he said with Amanda Balionis, he said, I stepped on 17T thinking I needed birdie eagle to have a chance. And I made birdie on 17. And then I gave myself an iron in 18. So, Berger made eagle. So it kind of ruled that out, but he still put himself right there in position. So it was sloppy early. He didn't take advantage of the early portion of the round. He was 1 over through 6, which is a stretch where you really have to get after it. And so it was, I think there's a lot he can take from this. It's a kind of some things just didn't go his way, like the break on 3. He didn't hit a terrible shot there, but he gets a really bad break. That can happen. 6, I don't know. Mark would know better than me about that. The strategy on 6 of trying to hit it way left up on top of the hill. It seems like a risky strategy to me. But again, kind of a bad break. 5's a tough hole. So that first stretch, it didn't quite go his way, and it feels like he's forcing it a little bit. So I think there's a lot of positives to take. But he's got to clean things up. He's got to let things come to him a little bit more, because we're losing the magic on Sunday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There's a lot of magic with Jordan, and he's done that on Sundays before historically. We're just not seeing that yet.
Well, that's the thing. I think there, Greg, you make good points, but I think you're tarring him in an old brush there, saying that he doesn't have the magic on Saturday, Sunday. You can certainly say that for last week at the Waste Management event. Now, as I look through what he did here at Pebble Beach this week here, now granted, the golf course became a bit more receptive, so targets were playing wider. But over a 4-round event, you can't afford to make 4 6s on par 5s, which is what he did. And so as I look at this, I'm like, this guy stood up with driver, which has been the Achilles heel in the biggest way, on certain holes where it's single file down there, and he swung away and hit the ball into play, which to me spoke to not just the golf swing, but to the mindset of trusting the golf swing. And you know, as a golf instructor, working the changes in is one thing, then applying them under pressure is another, and then doing the stuff on Sunday is entirely another. And so to me, I think there's a bunch of green lights here for Jordan Spieth. If he just irons out the par 5 play, if he makes 4 pars on those, it's a different story here this week. So there's 2 things you can't afford to do, on 3 to me on the tour. Don't let your draws fade or your fades draw. Make 3s on 3s and make 4s on 5s. And he made 4 6s on par 5s this week. And that's always going to haunt you. I don't care how good you are.
I want to look at his numbers for this week, KP. He finishes the week, of course, with the caveat that we only have 3 measured rounds, the rounds that were played at Pebble Beach. 37th off the tee, 10th on approach, 42nd in putting, and I'm losing his tee to green number, 6th in strokes gained tee to green. All good takeaways if you want to roll this thing forward and continue to find yourself on the first page of the leaderboard.
Well, my only question is how many he's going to win the Masters by in April.
-7.
I guess I already said Bryson was going to win by 5 or more.
Don't let your hot takes conflict with one another.
They're burning each other up.
I think that I'm more encouraged by this week than last week. And it, like the driver was really bad on Sunday. Like he kind of lost it over the last 12 holes. He didn't give himself any scoring opportunities. And so he was having to try to make 25 footers and it's just that you can't do that when Cantley and Berger and, those guys are involved. But I think the reason I'm more encouraged, he didn't do anything special with the putter this week, right? He was a 0 putter, I think, just above, just below, something like that. And yet he still contended.
Dude, were you watching golf on Friday? Holy cow, he made everything he stood over. Come on, Kyle.
I'm just looking at the numbers.
He lost in round 3. So that you say Friday, Mark?
Yeah, but
Friday is not included in that.
So. It was filled up from all over the place. And yesterday, it was so windy out there, it was hard to keep your balance. And so when you got yourself a few 4 and 5 footers getting gusted around by wind on Poania greens in the final group, oh man, you're comparing apples and oranges here. Forgive me.
Right. But the point I think Kyle's trying to make, Mark, is he's not leaning on the putter solely. It's not, you don't look at this finish and say, well, he dominated. He racked up all of his strokes on the greens. this is a little more repeatable. If Jordan has a day where maybe it's not quite so windy, maybe you're not on the Poana greens, and all of a sudden he has a hot day with a putter, it's going to go a lot farther because the tee to green game looks improved. Am I right, Kyle?
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see him on Friday because he wasn't on TV on Friday.
Yes.
Whenever he played Spyglass, well, it was on Friday.
That was Friday.
Right. So what I'm saying, I don't know what I'm saying. I'll agree with whatever Mark said.
No. Let's not do this.
No, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that I have had the luxury of watching him play, and we were covering some of the stuff for Golf Channel on Friday. And there on smoother greens at Spyglass, he was lightning, making 40. He made a 40-footer on the one hole. He made a number of 10-footers. The only putt he missed was something on the last hole, which was downhill from about 10 feet. And I think that was for 65 or 66 or whatever it was. The guy was majestic. I mean, he looked like Jordan Spieth to me. He was putting the ball in play. He was hitting the irons great. To me, the iron play was the banner of this week. And he was making everything he needed to. And he made a few putts on Saturday as well. But then you get gusted once or twice, and everyone's going to miss one or two. I mean, I saw some statistic here about Pebble Beach where the make percentage from 3 to 6 feet historically at this golf course is about 72%. Now, any other course with champion Bermuda greens, it's way up in that sort of range. So I'm just watchful to make, analyses of putting strokes and such when we're playing on some of these West Coast greens in sort of damp conditions, when even with a small field, you got heel prints and stuff all over the show.
The total putts that he took, this is why total putts and looking at strokes gained is so interesting. So both on Friday and Saturday, he had 27 putts. We assume he gained at Spyglass if he was rolling everything in. He lost a shot, 1.2 on Saturday. It was one of the worst putting rounds. Both of them, 27 total putts. So I wish we had the strokes gained data from Spyglass.
He lost strokes on Saturday with 27 putts.
Correct. He lost 1.2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. But he only hit 10 of 18 greens.
Right.
And that's where that's the total putts doesn't necessarily signify. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, just a quick story to put that in context.
You're a storytelling guy.
Yeah. I had a round once in my
Is Johnny
career.
Berger involved?
Same geographic location. We're back in Jupiter
East.
Yep. And so I had a round where I had 23 putts. Okay. It's an extremely, I made literally everything, but I only hit like 8 greens. So I had 23 putts. It means I only missed 5 all day, but I shot over par. So that's where total putts doesn't necessarily tell you exactly how you're putting. I had tap in because I was missing greens. So I was chipping it close. So you got to be a little careful with total putts. It doesn't always tell the whole story.
We're going to go rapid fire here on 3 guys. You're each going to get one. Mark, we'll start with you and Nate Lashley, who was the feel-good story for a while. I mean, he's neck and neck with Daniel Berger. I'm thinking he might steal this thing. He went off at 150 to 1, and then he gets to number 16. He flies the green. He has a putt for par. 4 putts later, he's carding a triple bogey, and he's played himself out of this tournament. Obviously, again, this is kind of the perception reality thing, Mark, which is like if you would have told Nate Lashley he was going to finish T5 5 days ago, he would have been thrilled with that. But when you're in the moment and you're a competitor and you're trying to win this golf tournament, he's going to look at 16 and wish he had a couple of those strokes back.
Yeah, yes. Truth is, it's hard for me to comment on Nate because I didn't really know what was going on with him. And my question to you, and then I'd probably have a better answer, is that was he playing from the fairway on 16, and did the ball land on the green and bounce over, or did he fly it over the back? Because
he was playing from the fairway, it landed on the green and then went off the back, and then he had like that delicate little chip back up there.
So, I mean, that whole location on 16 was one that you had to be very vigilant of. And I don't know if it's a situation where he hasn't been in contention for a long time. So he's looking at this with a scoring club in his hand going, well, I got to force the issue here on 16. That whole location on 16, to me, the way it was cut, you are more likely to make a mistake there attacking that thing than what you are if you just had to hit it in the middle of the green and allow the putter to be the superstar. You weren't making birdies on 16. 17 was an opportunity. 18 certainly was. So maybe that was because he just hadn't been in contention for a while, and there's a bunch of adrenaline going on, and maybe he was a little caught in the moment with a scoring club in his hand. But I don't want to say it's unforgivable, because I've just made the argument that putting on this course is hard. But, once you've missed the bogey putts, then stuff starts moving so fast inside of your head. And not only is it moving fast, then you're getting over something of similar length from the other side of the hole. Now you're going, oh my Lord, this hole is looking like the size of a quarter down there. And all of a sudden, the hole had appeared so big and everything was going your way. You're watching your own castle just fall down in front of your face, and you've got a leaderboard right next to the hole over there, so you know exactly what's going on. So I think there were a bunch of factors on the go there. But I think the main thing, if you had to ask him now, I would hazard a guess. He'd say he would rue his decision to go off that flag on 16.
Yeah, I think he took it in a bit deep there, and then he tried to, I think it was his second putt, he tried to just ram that thing in the back of the cup. And when you miss those, you're in big trouble. Patrick Cantley, Kyle Porter, to use a phrase that I think you used earlier, Patrick Cantley's a problem. Like, he shot a 62 on, what would that have been, Thursday at Pebble Beach, ties the course record, even when he seemingly didn't really have his best stuff the rest of the week. Well in contention of this thing for a very long time. I was waiting for that switch to flip and him to just kind of steal this thing, but he's a problem.
He is a problem. I think he's a top 5 guy right now. And I think, I think and I mentioned this on HQ with you earlier, it's, does he have this Xander thing where when he touches the lead, when he gets around the lead, he's kind of allergic to it and maybe backs off a little bit? I don't think that's true of him, but that's something that to keep an eye on going forward. I think, Xander and him have had very, very, very similar careers, and they have very similar statistical profiles. I think those are the guys you look at. Greg can maybe chime in on this, but there's just seemingly no holes there. Like they're just so solid across the board. And so when he shoots 62, you're like, yeah, I mean, he just kind of did everything that he does a little bit better than normal, and so I don't know. I'm curious to see his evolution over the next year or two, because I think he's somebody who could be a top, 2, 3, 4, 5 player in the world golf rankings, based on where he's at right now.
I think so too. And I don't think that he's allergic to the lead. I really don't think he has that. I look at today's round from him, and he gave himself putts inside of 15 feet for the entire back 9. And if just a couple of those went, and it's not that it's not bad putting. This is just a guy who's putting himself in contention regularly. And there's going to be days where they go and he shoots 62, and there's going to be days where they don't. And he doesn't shoot 60 and he doesn't win. But he's done this on Sunday too. I mean, don't forget what happened at the American Express. I think it was instead of 62, he decided to shoot 61 on that Sunday.
Yeah, I would add to that, because I watched him play the last couple of days, that there are no weaknesses in his game. He's way long enough. He flights the ball beautifully. But I was just curious at some of the green reading over the last couple of days. Now, in round 3, they kept the greens about a half step slower. They didn't roll them in the morning because they were anticipating the winds. And if you had these greens with the slope and an extra roll job in the morning, they were going to be unputtable. And so he missed a bunch of putts low on Saturday. Then they rolled them and cut them this morning as usual. And a number of right to left putts, which is sort of the right-hander's look. If you give a righty at this level a putt that moves from the right-hand side, the odds are up. You give them the left to right one, and then it's a little bit more doubtful that they'd make. But every right to lefter, as far as my memory serves, he missed on the low side, which I found interesting. And so I was just wondering about the green reading some. But other than that, it was a pretty complete performance, and he was just outplayed today by Daniel Berger, who was playing alongside.
Phenomenal day. Second straight week where it was absolutely awesome. Greg, real quick, I want to talk about Maverick Mcnealy. He posts the clubhouse lead. He gets in at 16 under. If Berger makes birdie on 18, we probably go back to that like penalty that he got assessed on Saturday where everybody's staring at his ball and we're talking about it for a while. But Daniel Berger rolls in an eagle to save us all from that. But Mav McNealy, obviously the local ties to Pebble Beach. We've seen him play well at times. I'm not sure his PGA Tour career, obviously very young. I don't know where he feels he's at, but good to see him post the clubhouse lead on a Sunday.
Yeah, it was a really nice performance. Again, he kind of came out of, it's not out of nowhere, but he kind of put himself into contention. You're watching him saying, oh, that's a nice run for Matt. Oh, that's a nice run for Maverick. Oh, he's got a real chance here. So it was an amazing run for him. And I credit the driver. He hit 13 of 14 fairways on both Saturday and Sunday over the weekend. And you just give yourself that many opportunities. And you're going to make a couple of birdies there. So I think his iron play is probably the thing that holds him back a little bit. Again, I mean, you hit 13 fairways in round 3 and 12 greens. You hit 13 fairways in round 4 and 14 greens. 14's much better, of course, but that's the area I think of weakness. You put yourself in position that many times. Like if Patrick Cantley were in that situation, he would have a lot more looks at birdie, and I think he'd hit a lot more greens. So that's the area of weakness for him, but a very nice performance, a very nice player. He's got 11. He won 11 times at Stanford. He tied Tiger Woods' record for wins. So an impressive player.
Anytime you tie a Tiger Woods record, you are doing something right. Okay, gentlemen, I'm going to fast forward this. I'm going to roll this ahead to Genesis next week. We're going to talk about that event, which I'm absolutely stoked for. We're going to give an update for our super contest, our one and done, all that good stuff. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. We are entering Riviera week. This is one of my favorite weeks on the calendar. KP, not only do you get an absolutely stacked field, Dustin Johnson, John Rahm, Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas. I'm going to leave somebody out. Everybody's here. You also get Riviera, which is a difficult course, the 10th most difficult course on the PGA Tour schedule last year. You get an easy par 5. You get that wild 10th hole, the drivable par 4 that everybody tries to figure something out. I mean, this to me has it all.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Remember when was it Spieth a couple years ago made like a 9 on 10? Do you remember that?
They either can't get out of the bunker or they keep hitting it back and forth, right?
It gets really narrow on that green.
Yeah.
That might have been a low point for me. I don't know about for him, but for me.
Yeah, you remember. He probably doesn't.
Yeah. Next week's going to be awesome. You know, as bad as this field was, it's kind of the opposite next week, you know, and of course we'll probably get, given how this week went, we'll probably get, somebody from out of nowhere next week because everybody in the field it's loaded. I think DJ is the big storyline for me. He's just, coming into, I was looking at his numbers of the guys that were in the Pebble field. I think over the last, it was like 3 or 4 months, he was twice as good as anybody in the Pebble field. Cantley was the second best guy, and he was twice as good over that stretch, which is it's kind of insane. Like his numbers right now are just off the chart. So I'm curious to see how he always plays well at Riviera, but it'd be cool to see him kind of step on it a little bit and just start winning a ton, leading into what was that, the 17 or 18 Masters before he fell down the stairs. He won 3 times in a row. I can see him winning, 2 or 3 more times before Augusta this year. That's not a difficult thing to envision.
There is, I mentioned the infinite ways to play 10. A lot of guys will play it out to the left. They'll try to come in because it's a little bit longer that way. To Greg's point, it gets super narrow. Mark, this is the event last year. I mean, it was like pure chaos on Sunday. Everyone was touching the lead. There were crooked numbers being made all over the place. If dust settled, it was Adam Scott winning for the second time at Riviera. So if it's anything like last year, I'm all in.
You would expect so, just the way the golf course sets up. I mean, 10, that entire back 9, 10 is a birdie opportunity, but you approach with caution because, like you referenced, to me, every time I go there, that green seems to get a little narrower and a little more rounded. There's something about that place because there's so much play out of the bunkers that all the sand left on the green, I think folks are naturally building this thing up as they play the course. But then you turn into a stretch of holes there, 12, 13, 14, that are mean. 15 is a challenge. 15 is also difficult. And then 16, 17, you can get after. And then 18 is just a tough 4. So it's always the place where folks are jockeying for position. And if you can take advantage of 17 and somehow make a 4 or 3 down 18, you might, step free of the pack. But it's to me one of the best courses on tour, certainly in my top 3. And you got everything there. You got Hollywood, you got Beverly Hills. It's just perfect, and it's a perfect time in the calendar, and it's kind of the exclamation point to what is always a sensational West Coast swing. And so I'm jacked for it.
It does have everything. It even had me on Thursday morning fist bumping Sung Jae Im at about 6:12 a.m. still in the dark, and he promptly missed the cut, which I think is probably my fault. Looking at this, Greg, I love it when courses bite back. I mentioned this is the 10th most difficult course on tour last year. There are going to be situations where par is a very good score. 10 is one of them, right? I mean, there's difficult holes. There's a difficult hole in the back. I think it's 15, I think, was one of the most difficult holes on tour last year. I love that, right? This is generally not going to end up being a birdie fest. This is going to be one that is won by a true grinder.
Yeah, it reminds you a little bit of the Farmers Insurance Open in a way, where it's just it's a big golf course. It plays a lot longer than the yardage. If you look at some of the statistics, players, the field on average hits way fewer fairways than average on tour. They hit way fewer greens on average than the tour average for all the other courses. So it really challenges your driving. It challenges your club head speed because the rough can get a little bit thick. And it can be really difficult to hit some of those greens and hold some of the greens. So, the hitting fairways becomes important. Getting distance becomes important. Also, you can hold the greens, which I always love. It's really fun to watch. So for me, when I'm looking at guys who are going to do well next week, it's guys that are great drivers of the ball, preferably long, and guys that have really solid short games as well. Iron play is always important, of course, but that's why Dustin Johnson, to me, to Kyle's point, is so interesting, because what he's doing on tour with his short game this year is phenomenal. I think he's 18th on tour strokes gained around the greens. He's hitting like 64% of his fairways. His stats right now are crazy good. So I think he's got to be a favorite. And I'm also interested to see what a Victor Hovland does. I think it's a good fit for Hovland, a little more of a low key guy than DJ. But and I think Victor Hovland's another guy with a much improved short game. He's 60th around the greens for a guy that a year ago said my chipping sucks. I think it's really improved. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Hovland does too.
One of my favorite quotes ever. Yeah, DJ's a cheat code. He's not even fair at this point. Looking at our super contest, we were all losers. I was the smallest of losers. I lost 6%. Greg, I was trying so hard. You had that Patrick Reed outright ticket at Farmers. I'm hanging on to this Nate Lashley 150-1 ticket. I would have been set for the season. I wouldn't have had to do anything else. I just would have picked matchups the rest of the way and beat you donkeys all year long. But no, now I got to go back out and grind it. I was trying to catch you, bud.
Yeah, you were trying. I thought you were going to for a while. I really did. And look, I knew you had that ticket. I had a Spieth ticket too, and I thought for the whole week I was clicking my heels together, thinking I'm going to run away with this thing because I just keep picking winners, and he kind of faded. So it was a little disappointing.
I want to see a GIF of you clicking your heels together.
We can work on that.
We need a segment on course record of you just clicking your heels together.
Yeah.
They got to be red too while you're at it, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
One and done update. I'm looking at this. We did. Greg, you did okay. Okay, so here we go. So update, Coach. Coach is at 1.6 million. He got 30,000 from Sam Burns. Producer Jacob, 2.2 million. KP, you had Kevin Streelman. Who got you 165,000, but he went through that stretch of 8 to 13, which was like a half a shot over par. Highway robbery. Played him at 3 under. I thought he was gonna win this thing for a second. He finishes 13th. He gets you 165,000.
He doubled. What was it? 16, 15?
One of them.
One of the last few holes. I was bummed out. Yeah.
That moves you in season totals to 2.8. I am now up to 3.1 thanks to my $30,000 from Sam Burns, so that's not so good. Greg, you are the big winner here of the week because you got 301,000 from Paul Casey. And I have actually another comment about Paul Casey coming up. But Greg, Paul Casey, T4, $301,000. That was much needed because you had basically earned 200,000 in the 7 weeks prior to that.
Yeah, geez, it's been such a. I went with a guy I knew he was going to play well here, and you're not going to. He's not a guy that I'm going to be itching to play throughout the rest of the year. I don't think I'll be. He'll play at other places well. He'll be a good choice at other places, but I don't think there's as obvious of a choice as this one. So I went with it, and I'm glad it paid off because I was in a real ugly slump.
That gets you to 3.7 million. You are $600,000 behind Mark at the top. And Mark, while you took Francesco Molinari in the one and done and you earned 17,000, the aforementioned Paul Casey won you what might be a more important wager of the week. You are now, am I correct to say, 3-0 in wine wagers over fellow podcasters?
I am, and it feels good. It really does. And as much as what I'm ruining the Francesco Molinari thing, in fact, I was texting back and forth with his coach, James Ridyard, and the laugh was the top tee shot from Molinari in round 3 off the first. And so I'm like, really? And he goes, dude, you should have seen the wedge hit to 16 on Saturday afternoon too. So he didn't have his best stuff, Molinari, but, knocking off coach. I'm looking forward to catching up with him because, as we all know, he's larger than life and never short of an opinion. And he was so high on Zalatoris. And playing against Casey here, I think Casey next week is a sensational pick. I'll let the cat out of the bag, saving him for Innisbrook. So I think Casey will be good again next week.
Pull behind a look behind the curtain here. We all showed up in the room here, and Mark goes, "Where's Coach? Where I gotta have a word. I gotta have a word with Coach. I gotta make sure he knows that I have won this wine wager off of him," which I thought was funny. Gentlemen, that's it for Pebble Beach Week. Unless there's anything else, what have we missed? Anything? Going once?
What about the lunch money DraftKings little pool that we had going on?
Did you win it? You were only bringing it up because you won it, right?
Yeah, that's right. I just wanted to give myself one last little pat on the back.
Hey, okay, so while we're at it then, I've won these bets 3 times. I've been paid twice. Where's the third dude? Huh?
The post office has been extremely slow these days.
Okay. I'll let you slide. You're a new dad.
I promise you it's coming. And one of these nights at 4 a.m, I'll get that. I'll personally deliver it to you. I'll book a flight and I'll drive it. I'll fly it down there and personally deliver it.
It's getting thicker right now.
Well, we know he's got NetJets. Yeah, set up the deal. We know he's got a little extra lunch money. He took all of our lunch money, so we know he can afford a bottle of wine at this point. All right, gentlemen. Much appreciated. Pebble Beach Week in the books. We turn the page to Genesis. Producer Jacob doing great work as usual behind the scenes. Let me thank Greg DuCharme, who you can find on Twitter at TheRealGFD. Let me thank Mark Immelman at Mark_Immelman. Kyle Porter at Kyle Porter CBS. You can follow me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut, and we'll catch you next time.